Welcome, fellow seekers of challenge and triumph, to the SufferSooner podcast. Join us on a journey where ordinary souls embark on extraordinary endeavors. From the relentless grind of gravel to the punishing gauntlet that is triathlon, we've tasted our fair share of suffering. So fellow endurance warriors, let's lace up our shoes, strap on our goggles, and dive headfirst into the challenge, knowing that with every step, stroke, and pedal forward, we grow stronger together. All right, guys, welcome to episode 61, Flint Hills Gravel Adventure.
The post-race.
The post-race. Because we couldn't give you any race preview because we had no idea what the heck we were doing.
Yeah, that's right.
So to give you a little bit of idea on the adventure race, it is a cue card only race. So you can have your Garmin, but there's no map that you can download. There's no route that Bobby posts that we can use to navigate. It's use a cue card, get to the aid station, to the gas station.
Right.
Somebody will hand you a cue card.
Yeah.
For the next section, and then you'll go and you keep going, and you don't know where you're going. So
it reminds me of the old school parties back in the day when there would be a hidden party in a warehouse somewhere, and you had to go to the gas station to talk to the guy who gave you a piece of paper that told you where the next guy was.
Yep.
Got to keep the trouble away. So that's how we did it.
So it's basically if you were determined enough, you'd get to the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
what do you think of that format? Let's just jump into that real quick because it's a different format than most. I mean, it's old school, right? So everybody has bike computers now and get kind of tied to it. So I don't know. You haven't done cue cards in a while. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
It took me about a cue card and a half to kind of get my rhythm down.
How many did you lose? How many?
I lost one.
Yeah.
But luckily, it was close to the next station that we weren't too bad. It was just like 2 turns or whatever. So there's a cue card floating out in probably South Dakota by now.
That's right. Yeah, the wind was something else. We'll get into that here in a minute.
Yeah. So it was good. So we made some wrong turns. Some other people made wrong turns. It's kind of one of those things you got to pay attention, and you can't assume that the people in front of you know where they're going because they may not.
Good chance they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I like the format. I thought it's novel. I guess it's not like I wouldn't like Unbound 200 to be cue card because I think I'd end up probably in, Colorado eventually or something, or Oklahoma, who knows?
How did you find fatigue playing a role on the cue card thing? Because I know that when we talked to Bobby pre-race as part of the Gravel Cup preview, I mean, he was very clear that he tries to make the cue cards as easy as possible, knowing that people will fatigue, and now we've done it. I think for the most part it was pretty easy to follow, but it's not so much following the cue card. I think to me it was just the fact that as fatigue sets in, it's easy to kind of lose your spot, if you will, on the card. Yeah, that's kind of what I found. Maybe because I had a rough day, but
I think the beginning part was a little bit harder because I just didn't have a system down.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I'm all about the system, right?
Yeah.
So
I need a process to
I need
follow.
the process. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's got to be so we would make a turn and then I would memorize the turns for the next two, so the next turn and the turn after.
Yeah.
So that it would just constantly be rotating through my brain. And then that's how I would do it if it was a longer event or something like that. It was, me,
yeah. So you're singing a song in your head about it, right? You're making a song.
Exactly. It. So yeah, and it's the same way. It's the same thing I do with nutrition and stuff. It's every hour, you check your bottles, make sure you drink everything. If you didn't drink it,
finish
it. So it's just one more thing that I would add to the punch list that I'm going through every hour.
Yeah, and I don't know because I've never done an event like this with cue cards. I mean, cue cards are nothing new. I mean, they're simplest form of direction and navigation, but I think what I found that worked for me was having the GPS was useful because when you'd make the turn onto whatever road it was, Garmin at least tells you what the next intersection is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of times we found at least I found in this course, you didn't pass through many intersections before you made the next turn. So almost, I bet half the time at least, you made the turn and then there's the name of the next street. So all you had to remember was a left or a right. So I found that made it pretty easy for me. But I agree. I think a lot of people we saw one guy that he was following us and where we made that wrong turn and then
Yep.
he just flew through and then
Yep.
he caught a tailwind and he's probably like, thank goodness I got
Yeah.
a tailwind. And then we're like, no, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah, we were trying to yell at him, but he was too far gone. So.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, no, I think that was good. And then the other part that I did too is when I got the cue card, I would read through it and see kind of like where Bobby was trying to take us.
Yeah.
And then, so then I was like, okay, he wants us to go like, here, we're going to go like, southwest a little bit. And then we're going to make a, turn.
Yeah.
And then start heading northeast or whatever, like whatever. You kind of get the general layout of how the route is, especially since like, I do a lot of route planning for us.
I was going to say,
So I was just kind of like, all right, where's he trying to take us? And then I'm gonna be like, okay, so then you can kind of figure out, okay, as long as you're like, I'm heading in somewhat the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, we got to Council Grove, and then we saw that second cue card, and it was like we didn't know exactly where we were going still because it doesn't say like the city name on it or anything. Right? It just has intersections and turns, but once we kind of got about halfway to that next aid station, we realized we were kind of done going north. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, well, there's only so many options. You're either going to bring us straight south and,
kind of go south and then come back up,
or you're just going to take us and make a big loop around this. And that's ended up what it turned out to be. Because by the time we got to Osage City, we knew exactly what was going on. And in fact, it was nice because we had sort of a cross tailwind for sections of it versus that headwind, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I mean, you're right. You do plan a lot of the rides. So, I mean, it's probably in your nature. You're the navigator. So, and that was the other thing. It was nice when we were with groups, like just having the confidence that everybody made their turn. So I think we found one point where the cue card had a mistake on it.
Yeah, it said turn left. But then it said left on the left side. Mm-hmm. That was the turn that you're supposed to do. But then on the description it said turn right onto. Right. And so we're like, and I was like, just go right.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
So.
But it worked out because I mean, again, you there's ways to validate. That's the beauty of having the GPS because we did use the map a couple of times just to confirm before you make. Because like the worst thing you can do is make a turn, just assume you're right. And like the one guy that we're talking about, you go a mile and a half down the road and then you like, well, crap, now I got to come a mile and a half back, and so you might as well just take a few seconds to confirm it and move on. So. But so other than the format itself, I mean, it was not really much different than any other bike race in terms of like I felt like not knowing where you were going. I think that was a lot of fun. Like it was kind of nice. There was sort of this mystery to it. As the day went on, we figured it out. But it was kind of fun lining up at the start, not knowing what's going to happen next. Like where am I going? I have no idea what the elevation change is going to be. Like we knew in the description it was 5,000 to 6,000 feet. I think our Garmin's both said almost 8K of climbing.
Yep.
So we were like, I thought, oh, it's gonna be a 5 or 6K day and 120 to 130 miles. I'm like, well, that's normal. Like that's actually not very much climbing for that kind of distance. So I was like, wow, this is gonna be nice. And then we found out it's 8K. Like, oh, no wonder my legs feel like death. So this is
it's kind of like when Serena, she'd be like, well, how many feet of elevation? I was like, probably like 5 or 6, and then she'd get back. It was 7,200, and I'm like, all right, well, I mean, it's close.
It's close. I mean, it's within a factor.
So it's like ish. So like I can understand like there's some people definitely if you're one of those people that like want to know the route, want to know all the elevation, know where all the climbs are, this is not the event for you.
No,
for sure.
Not at all. And that's the thing, like again, going back to sort of lining up, it's like it didn't start out any different than any other event or race. Like it went out pretty hard. The front group pushed the pace as they should.
The first two just tore off.
Yeah.
And so I think they like one they might have known that it was going to be like a north route, and they might have just done it enough or know the area there to just know, okay, if Bobby sends us up on the north route, there's only so many places he can take us.
Right.
And so they're like, well, we want to get to the most northern point before the wind really kicks up.
Yeah.
Or at least, like get through some of the headwind.
Yeah. So let's kind of get into how it went, because you're getting into to a really important thing, because the headwind was certainly a factor, but the wind picked up throughout the day. It was not very windy at the start. So
No.
it's not one of those days where you got the tailwind at your back at the first half of the course and it pushes, and then you got to fight it the way back in. There really wasn't a lot of wind at the start. At least I didn't think there was. If it was, it sure didn't seem to help. So
no, it's probably like, I would say like maybe 10 miles an hour or so. And then it moved up to 30 with 40-mile-an-hour gusts.
Yeah.
So as the day went on, it got more difficult for sure.
Right.
As far as navigating and keeping the bike upright and fighting the wind and fighting your inner demons. It just got, after that first pit stop, it was kind of like, it was on.
Yeah, I don't know why you had to bring up the inner demons, man. Like, I'm trying not to get to that part of the story. Like, I've been trying for 4 days to purge this from my mind, and you keep bringing it back.
Keep dragging you back. I was out, but then you dragged me back in.
It's this darkness I can't escape.
Yeah.
So let's so the race itself. So when we started, we held with probably the second group, what I would call, right?
Yeah, we were second group of 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to be with that first group, not the first two.
Not the front two. The front two were just gone.
Yeah. There was no way.
So let's break this
Those
up.
guys ended up winning it because they're just good.
They're good. Yeah. So there was those two guys. Then there was a front group.
Yeah.
And then there was the second group, which is where we were at.
Yeah.
And that happened. What about the first 4 or 5 miles? I want to say it was like it kind of chunked up like that. It wasn't a lot of distance.
First couple turns.
Yeah.
And then so I got behind a couple of guys. You were behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And for a moment I thought they were doing the smart play. They were trying to pull those guys back in.
Mm-hmm.
And just, kind of latch on in a couple miles.
Yeah.
We get to a long downhill section,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of sit up, and come to find out later, one of those guys was having some stomach issues, and he was feeling it already. And so I was like, well, I'm going to put in a dig. And so I passed them,
Mm-hmm.
and I got within, I don't know, maybe a couple 100 feet, and then we got it to an MMR.
Yeah.
And I was catching some of the stragglers on the MMR,
Mm-hmm.
and then I caught a rut and then laid the bike down. And I was like,
Amateur.
I was like, yeah, total rookie move. And just kind of, did a slow fall over into the dirt, and it was just like, ugh. So then I popped up, and then of course everybody, all the stragglers that I passed
Mm-hmm.
me, and then then I was like, well, Danny's not that far, so I'll just catch up.
Yeah. So because I was, so I want to try to remember where that move was made. I want to say you made that move around like mile 12 or 13, maybe.
Yeah.
And the race went out, like a normal race. Like I said, I didn't feel like it pushed very hard. Like it wasn't a challenge.
And that's was my whole thing. I was like, if we can get with this big group, that's the first group, those guys are probably just going to go steady to the end.
Right.
They're not
Right.
They're not out here racing it.
Right.
They're probably out here for survival.
And they're strong riders, so they're just riding it probably, slightly above, a comfortable pace, but they weren't. I never felt like anybody was hammering the pace.
Yeah.
Maybe the front two guys. And so I was kind of to pick up where you were at. So you were with those two guys that you're talking about, and I was playing the hills pretty steady. Like I was trying not to surge any power because I wasn't really sure where everything was at yet, and I was just kind of getting a feel. But I could always see where you guys were. You guys were only 50 to 100 feet in front of me, so there wasn't really much draft going on there. So it was just. I was like, you know what, if I can just kind of hang out here, I had a couple of guys with me, so I knew if we really wanted to make a move, we could get you. And it was funny because when you went on that downhill section and put your move in, the guy that was with me, we were chatting a bit, and I said, yeah, That's my buddy's Red Bull and Monster Energy wearing off. He's gonna regret that move here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And so I saw when you got close to that front group, I was like, shit, he makes that front group, I'm gonna have a hard time, because then I will be in trouble. Like, and we weren't racing each other, but it's just one of those, like, I kind of want to stick close to you most of the day. I actually thought I was going to be able to put some hurting on you today, but we'll get into that. But anyway, I felt like, hey, this is settling in okay, and I was catching up to those two guys that you left, and so I was going to hang with them for a bit. And we got to that MMR road, and those other two guys, they ended up taking off. Like, there were a couple of hills or something, they pushed them and they took off. That's fine. And then I see you on the MMR road. I'm like, what the hell? What happened?
Yeah, and you're like, did you drop your chain? I was like, no.
I fell over. I'm like, wait, you crashed?
I was like, it was just one of those things where you're just going slow, and you're looking up the road to see, what the other people are doing, but then you didn't pay attention to where you were, and then I kind of just drifted, and then I hit the rut a little bit, and the tire just went, and so I just kind of went slow.
And the thing is like from where you went down to where we turned on to a normal gravel road was only like another couple hundred feet.
Yeah,
it really wasn't that far.
Yeah, so I was making good progress, and that's probably where I would have caught, at least most of them or a couple of them, and that would have been a pretty decent day. Yeah, and just the mistake happened, and I just didn't have I was like, oh man. So then I was like, well, I'll just kind of wait for Danny, check the bike, make sure everything's okay. Yep. Then you rolled up, and then I was just riding with you, and then that was it. Yeah. I mean, I was like,
you settled in?
Yeah, I settled in. I was like, oh, if we're going to catch him, we'll catch him. If not, then we probably won't see him.
And that was the thing. So, because the two guys that you passed, like you said, they passed you. Yep. And then, so it was pretty much us. Like I kept thinking the whole day, more people were going to catch us at some point, and nobody ever did. And I was really surprised by that. I mean, because there was a good group behind us, and they must have, a good group, like at least 15 people were behind us at one point. Because I remember looking back and seeing a pack, and I was like, okay, well, you know how it is. Like if you get to a point where you're like, well, I may just let them catch me so we can have a draft to work with or a group, but if they're that far back now, how much are they working? Right. And I mean, how much are they going to work in a group for you and all that kind of stuff. So it didn't feel like, well, if they caught us, great. If not, no big deal. And I want to say that was like I said, probably around 20 miles in maybe. And Council Grove was, I'm trying to remember what that was roughly.
That was 25 miles.
25. Yeah. Cause that's where that first Q card trade was. And we came out of the nature trail, right? Because it had a little section on the nature trail, which was very nice to have because it was smooth and fast. It felt great. I think it tried to dump us out to like an Oak Street or something to try to go to a gas station.
So then it was just go to the gas station. And then again, I wasn't reading the Q card as much in the beginning section. I was just like, okay, everybody's still pretty fresh. They kind of know, just follow people. And then, so we got out, and then I was like, where the heck are we going? Everything's like kind of messed up. And so I think instead of going on the nature trail, well, when we got off the nature trail, we should have veered left onto the road, and then that would have took us to the gas station. And we went to the right, which is next to a restaurant. And I started asking people where the Oak Street was, and they didn't know where it was. And I look up, and there's this guy waving, and I was like, oh, that's where we got to go. Yeah, so we just kind of cut straight over to the Q card guy. Yep. And I think I asked you, I was like, do you need anything? And because I already had like a bottle and a half, like I didn't go through very much. And so I was like, I can skip that first one and basically, make it to the second aid station and be good with that. So
that's what we did. Yeah. And it was kind of funny because there were a number of folks from the front of the race that did stop at that first station. Yep. And we were now ahead of them. Yep. Which was kind of nice. But that didn't last long. They were fast.
They just caught up to
But so came out of Council Grove, and of course the route starts working. It's more north and northeast, and I don't know, somewhere around I want to say probably around mile 35 or so, roughly. And so I'm going back to look at the map here because there's like a distinct point in the map where yeah, mile 35, we went north, and then around mile 40, we started working our way back east. And so it was somewhere around, I think it was when we started making that turn back east, was when we had just come off of a paved road. I think you had slammed a bunch of nutrition, like, because
Yep.
we were on you get a chance to eat, you eat,
Yeah.
right?
So, I mean, that's the one thing, like if
Yeah.
it's, if it's a nice road,
You better eat.
I sit up, I
Yeah.
take my hands off the bars, I stretch all
Stretch
my,
out.
stretch
Yeah.
everything. And I'm just pounding food.
Right.
Because you don't know what roads Bobby's, it may
Oh, my
be
God.
MMR for the next, 20 miles
yeah.
or something. And you're just like, yeah, I can't eat on those roads.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I did the same thing. Like, we got on that paved road, I set up and I ate. I had like a pack of fig bars or something, so a few hundred calories. I shoved like a half a banana, and I just everything I could to cram everything down. And it was about that time, maybe a few miles after that, because I had my pack on and I took a drink, and I was like, man, my pack still feels kind of heavy. And I was like, and I looked down, I was like, I haven't really touched my bottles yet either. I'm like, this isn't good. This isn't good. So roughly mile 40, 35 to 40, I want to say, I went back and looked at the data and everything. I kind of see where the wheels were starting to fall off. And so that was roughly 2 hours in. 2 hours in and 2.5, and I could tell then something wasn't quite right, but I just shoved all that food in my face. I'm like, I think I'll be okay, and I'll just focus on drinking more, right? Because I got my nutrition in the pack and bottles, so I'm just like, I'll just drink more. And then finally, around like the 3 hour mark, we got to about mile 50, I want to say it was, and we made a turn. It was on the northmost point of the course, and we made a turn to come south, and that's when it all hit, because the headwind had picked up. And like, it had been kind of a rough stretch across, but yeah, it fell off fast, man.
yeah, I was talking to Danny, and it's like, oh, I'm not feeling too great. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, just go on, just go ahead. I was like, look, dude, if I wanted to race it, I would have been gone already.
Yeah.
Like, I just, it's not that kind of day. I'm like, I kind of thought, I was like, it's probably good that I'm not like trying to stay with the front groups and stuff, because I would have dug a hole deeper than, I needed to for this type of event. Like, this is not an A event. This was just a C event, just to go and
build up some volume,
see, enjoy this race, see what it is, first time doing it, see what it's all about, all that stuff, just doing some recon, just doing, have a good time. That was the main goal, which I accomplished. I had it was as much as you can have a good time in 40-mile-an-hour winds. I had a pretty good time. There was one road on this course that if I ever see it again, I am not riding it. I will go around it. But other than that,
just remember, it's docking road.
Yeah, docking road.
Yeah.
So I basically was like, yeah, I'm totally fine. Let's just survive the day and just go and do that. So that's how my day played out. And so I survived.
I think if you would have caught that front group instead of crashing, I think you would have probably sucked into the race.
Oh yeah,
and it would have been over after that.
I would have gotten done with the race, and then I probably would have had to take 3 days off.
Yeah.
Just because, just to stay with those guys and probably the speed that they were going. I think they got in probably like an hour and some change ahead of us.
There were a couple of groups. There was
eventually that group split into
up.
two. And so so it was the two guys that won, came first, second. Then that big group that was in front of us split into. Those guys came in like, maybe like an hour after those guys, and then 30 minutes came that next big
because I think where we finished, there were roughly 2 or 3 people that finished, I want to say like 20, 30 minutes ahead of us.
Yep.
And I mean, we remember seeing them on the course, so it's not surprising. But yeah, so, kind of going back to the whole wheels falling off, like, I've had issues before where, especially open range a few years ago, like probably that first year of open range was a really bad year for me. But I don't have many days anymore where the wheels totally fall off. Like, I've pretty well dialed in nutrition and got everything all nailed down. But man, I'd say, and for the wheels to fall off at 3 hour mark, or roughly, that something wasn't right there. And I was, and all day, man, like, so from that point on, the rest of the day, it was
all
just
day.
freaking
Danny
miserable.
was horrible to ride with.
Oh yeah. Yeah, poor Travis. Well, what do you mean ride with? Because you were like, so for people who don't know, like, when one of us is having a rough day, it's not uncommon for the other one to go up the road, a few hundred feet or whatever, and it's mostly more for like, hey, I'm still here.
Yeah, you
but
can see me. We're still
here.
experiencing the same stuff.
Yeah, and it's just a motivation thing. Like, and I'll sit up for you and wait for you at certain areas, but like, you just kind of ride your ride at that point, and it's really it's always good to see like somebody else up the road. So that's what we try to do, and that's, I think I told you probably 3 or 4 times, like, dude, just go on, let me die out here, I'll be fine.
Yeah, at one point you were like, hey, I'm just gonna give you the keys to the car. And he's like, you go on and then just come get me.
I did say that.
I was like, I'm like, that's not going to happen to you. I'm like, what? So I can come and get you like 30 minutes behind me? I'm like, just.
Oh, it was bad, man.
Yeah.
So here's, if you want to know how dark it was.
Yeah.
So I was telling a friend of mine the other day about this. Somebody that does not ride bikes. They don't know. They're like, you're just an idiot for doing this stuff. That's who they are. And they're right. But I was telling him about it, and I said, it's funny because it's almost cliche, right? Because everybody's like, oh, you just keep pedaling and you just keep moving forward. And it's like, you hear that all the time, but if you don't experience this stuff and you've never done it, you don't understand how like real that is. That is such a real thing.
It's so easy when those times that you're just suffering, just to go, you know what? This tree looks nice.
Yeah. How many times did I tell you, I'm like, I'm ready to I'm taking a nap in this ditch.
I'm like,
right here.
I'm like, oh, you can take a nap when we get to the next stop. I'm like, we'll just stand around and I'll sit there and wait for however long you need. But like, we're not stopping.
Exactly. And we did stop a couple of times for like little mechanical things or like rocks and shoes, things like that. But we didn't stop just to stop usually. Yeah. So I was telling this buddy, like, I was like, man, it was dark. I mean, and you know how it gets. And so it was so dark, man. Like, it's clear that my brain was not functioning.
Yeah.
Like, nothing was, and my body was like done. And this was too early in the race to have these kind of issues. But I was like, all I could do was just keep pushing the pedals. Like, that's all I could do. It was so dark. I was like, I'm selling my bike. I'm canceling the rest of my season.
You're making a plan for everything.
I got it all figured out.
I've been there,
right?
Man.
I'm like, I'm not doing Unbound. I'm gonna just pull out from that. I'm such a terrible rider. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing open range next week. I'm just gonna sell my bike and kick it and throw it in the dirt. Like, whatever negative thought you could possibly have, that's what I was having. For not just like 10 minutes. Like, normally when you have that problem, you're like, well, it's like when you're having nutrition, like, you just keep eating and you just keep pedaling. Eventually your legs come around. Eventually your body comes around. And that's all I could keep telling myself. Like, that was the only positive thing I could. It was like, eventually it'll come around. Dude, it was like another 2 to 3 hours of that darkness. Like, it was just horrible, horrible death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I coined the term that Danny was out there. He was dying 1,000 deaths because every time I looked back, he was just miserable looking.
Just, I mean, head like draping, hanging on the handlebars. Like, it was bad. And I'm not like, I get it. There's every rider that's done a lot. Anybody that's done a lot of riding has experienced this at some point. And I've experienced, but never that bad.
Yeah.
Like, never, not for that long. Like, usually it's 15, 20 minutes, you kind of get through it.
I've had dark times in a lot of races where it's just like, why am I out here? This is so stupid. I'm going to sell some stuff. Like, I'm never doing this again. Right. But then you get to a point where you're like, everything turns around. Oh, my legs feel great. Right. Oh, this is great. This is the best day of my life.
And that's so that's what it was. So finally we get to that Casey's, and it was the third stop, right?
Yep.
That was the third stop, wasn't it? Yeah. So, see, I'm still suffering. So we get to the Casey's, and I'm like, and all I could think was, because that whole time I'm talking about, I've been drinking my nutrition. I've been trying to shove goos in my face, like anything, to the point I was so nauseous, like I wanted to throw up every 10 minutes. I was ready to throw up again. And so it was just anything I could do, just keep nutrition going in. And we get to the Casey's, I go inside, I get a big bottle of Coke. I slam as much of that as I could, and you gave me some candy. I don't know. I ate a bunch of stuff, and so we leave the Casey's. We were there for way too long, but we left, and all of a sudden, like like the sun was rising for another day. It was going to be a beautiful day today.
Yeah.
And for about 45 minutes,
yeah,
I felt amazing.
He was like, "Oh, this is great. We should go on this road's nice." And oh man, we're going down here, and we're just going. I'm like, "Who is this guy?"
Right?
You know, like, who is this? What happened to Danny? Like, what'd you do with him? This guy was super sunshine and chipper.
That was nice.
Yeah, and then it got dark again.
It got dark again.
Yeah, and then we made the last little southerly section, and then we were just going to head west towards Maracus.
Yeah.
And right there, Danny's just like, "Get me off of this road.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm out. I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought you were having a good time."
That's right. Let's talk now. So there was that last, what was it, a 2 or 3 mile road south, that last south road right into the headwind. And I was just everything I could do to just be done with that thing. So it was just, but yeah, it's just one of those things like, it was a brutal day, but you know, what am I complaining about? You know, at the end of the day, it's like, it was still a lot of fun. I mean, the event itself, like I said, having the cue cards, having the chance to go out there and ride some of those roads, it was beautiful. I mean, I think probably one of the coolest things about it, which just happened to be the time of year, is the fact that they were burning off so much of the prairie and like the wild grass and everything. And there was one section we turned on. It was like Mars. Like it was like, it almost looked like it was like a volcanic landscape, because everything was charred. It was pretty cool. But yeah, no, all in all, I mean, you know, yeah, was it a great day for me? No, it wasn't a great day, but it was still fun. So I had a good time. So
it was good. Yeah. So
the only thing I can say is, you know, lessons learned.
Yeah.
Freaking make sure you eat your Wheaties in the morning, or whatever the heck it is you do for pre-race, because that's the only thing I can attribute it back to, is my pre-race nutrition was apparently not in good order.
So I think on the way home we talked pretty in depth about this, and we were, you know, I had some thoughts and stuff. So my race nutrition has kind of all pretty much been the same since I've had a bad day like you have had, which is carb heavy the night before.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be rice or cereal or whatever thing. In the morning, when I first wake up, it's some kind of egg sandwich or you know, something like that. And then, you know, he makes fun of me, but it's a sugar monster or Red Bull or that, and some kind of, you know, carb heavy kind of breakfast, like either, you know, waffles or pancakes or this time I had a, you know, uncrustable peanut butter and jelly. Yeah. And then what I do too is I don't care if it's too cold or too hot.
Yeah.
When that Garmin goes off and tells me to drink, I drink.
You do it.
I shove it. I do it. Most of the time, it tries to tell me to eat when I'm going up a hill. Yeah. And it's like usually at the top of the hill, I'm reaching in my pocket,
doing whatever you can.
Yep. So it's kind of following that. You know, I don't speak for Danny and his life choices, but you know, if you have an issue with nutrition, a lot of times it's because you are trying to think you know better than you do, and you know, as far as stuff goes, and my feeling is I don't know any better.
Sure.
Because I'm focused on the race.
Yeah.
And so I'm, you know, doing what I can to keep the bike upright or whatever, focused on that part. You know, when it tells me to do something, when my Garmin beeps at me, I just do whatever it tells me to do.
Yeah.
If it's eating, you know, I mix for the first part of the race for me, since it's cooler, I mix my hydration and my calories come from liquid bottles. Yeah. And so, and then I can eat solid food too. But as it gets hotter, those things separate. Right. So hydration is its own bottle. Right. And then nutrition is either in a mix that's in my backpack or a mix that's in my bottle, or I eat solid food. If it's too hot, I can't eat solid food because I get too hot. Yeah. So usually for me, I end up having two big bottles. I have a bottle that has hydration, and then the bottle that has nutrition.
Yeah.
Of course, like I'm a heavy sweater. This is just for me. This is what I've found from years and years of struggling. So like, don't think like, oh, I just made this up the other night.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
it's from trial and error. It's from doing exactly what Danny's done
Yeah.
and suffering through these races and going back and going, what could I have done to get to be better or to
Different,
not
yeah.
to have that situation?
Right.
And it's not saying that I won't have that situation sometime.
Oh, it happens.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we were riding.
We were just riding a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the heat kind of picked up a little bit.
Yep, and I started getting cooked.
Yeah.
Yep, and then we rode Triple Bypass last year. I got cooked on that and was having a horrible day. But
Yeah.
again, it was just one of those things.
It's always trial and error.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, even the pros have a bad day every now and again. So.
Yeah, so you just kind of, for me, like I said, it's been two things. One, trying to keep it as consistent as I possibly can. Find out what works, cut what doesn't work.
Right.
You know, find out like, oh, like if we were eating that candy, that was like a, it was Nerds gummy clusters or whatever. They're super sugary.
Yeah.
And so,
and they have sour to them.
yeah,
And sour kind of
and
resets
so,
everything.
yeah. So I heard about that from some ultra runner friends. And they were like, yeah, we just use these. And I looked up the caloric and I was like, okay, well, I'll substitute a bag of those and see how it plays out. It worked really well.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
And so I was like, okay, so that was the one thing I was testing. That worked out very well on this ride.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, now that's something I can throw.
It's in the bag now.
It's in the bag. It's something I can throw into the arsenal. But yeah, it's, you know, one of those things where I think, you know, as Danny's, you know, seeing Danny's journey through this nutrition, it's just, I think he's getting to the point now where it will be more of a more thought out, consistent. You know, I'm eating this thing the night before. I'm eating this thing the morning of,
Right.
and the drive down there, and
that's
I don't think you'll be crushing monsters. Like
no, I won't crush monsters. No, I'm not a big fan of the energy drinks and all that stuff. But
I like that little hit of because most of these races, again, getting into that group. If we would have lined up a little bit further and stayed with that group, we probably wouldn't have had to work as hard as we did all day.
Yeah. Well, if we could have gotten the group, I agree. I mean, there's no question even if you had 2 or 3 other riders with you to trade, you know, buck in the headwind, like that's a huge savings.
Because it was just me and Danny.
Well, and if there's 4 people working, then 75% of the time you're not directly in the headwind.
Yep.
If you're truly rotating the time equally. So, yeah, there's no question at all. And I think you bring up good points about the nutrition, you know, and that's so, you know, I would say I do have a pretty good routine for pre-race. And night before, generally, I have a pretty good idea of what you know, it's not always the same thing, but it's usually, you know, fairly close. I think one of the things that's interesting too, and this is something that I dealt with last year, and I thought I had done a similar routine on Dirty Disco earlier this year because again, for us, it was about a 2-hour drive. I want to say Dirty Disco was about a 2-hour drive as well.
Yep.
Right. So I kind of tried to model this trip off of the last one because Dirty Disco, I felt freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Like I was ready to rip legs off. Like I was having a good time until we crashed, and we'll talk about that. I mean, that was another episode. Another different.
Just go back to that one.
Yeah. But I felt great until then.
Yep.
But anyways, so I thought I was on the same thing, but I think, you know, we were talking about this on the way back too, is a couple of things. One is just enough volume of calories pre-race. So like that morning, the morning of Flint Hills, I ate, you know, something with high protein, it's like oatmeal, like protein oatmeal kind of stuff, and has a lot of carbs in it too. But it's pretty heavy on the protein, which I'm a big fan of. I love having a lot of protein in the morning because I think it just helps like throughout the rest of at least throughout the rest of the next several hours. And then but I think where I went sideways was on the way down. I think last time I want to say I had a Cliff Bar. I had something else that was a very high sugar. I had a high sugar content.
Yeah.
And this time all I had was the banana that I had eaten half of it. And I had only eaten a little bit I'd had a little bit more of an oatmeal shake kind of thing. And it just wasn't enough. And so that's the only thing I could think, because I mean, the night before I had a pretty good meal, a lot of calories, a lot of proteins. but anyway, I think because for the timing of where the wheels fell off and they started to fall off, like I've had rides before where I didn't do in-race nutrition right, and it's usually like that 4 or 5 hour mark is when you start to like
that's usually
out.
when stuff.
That's usually when stuff happens. This time it was like I knew at like that 2.5 to 3 hour mark. This something ain't quite right here.
Yep.
You know, and so anyway, I mean, I think, but it's always trial and error. And even when you think you've got your nutrition nailed down and dialed in, because I mean, how many times have I had races where I'm like Humphreys is a great example where I always seem to have a bad nutrition day at Humphreys because it's hot.
Yep.
And so you're always tweaking with the fact that there's these external factors of temperature and how much you sweat and the salinity of the drinks that you have, all that stuff. It's like there's a reason that these pro teams have dedicated nutritionists that know exactly what to do for each of their cyclists, and we don't have that. And so I don't care how many marketing gimmicks you buy into and how many, snake oils you buy and all that stuff. At the end of the day, your body's different than everybody else's, and you got to keep trial and error until you figure it out, and you'll never have it 100%, I don't think. But
no. But I think what you can do is you can start to, again, this is for all the Hulkamaniacs out there like that, do this with us, like write this stuff down.
Yeah.
Or you get done with a training ride or a race like this.
Yeah.
Write down everything you ate.
Yeah. That's a great point.
And add it up.
Yeah.
And see if you were on target. So like for me, when I made the plan for the race, I was like, okay, I think we're going to be out there probably, if it's a super bad day, we're going to be out there probably like 10 hours. If it's a really good day, we're going to probably be out there 8 hours, just given the amount of riding and what I think is going to happen. So what do we end up? 10, 12.
We were at 10. Yeah, 10, a little over 10 of elapsed time and only like 9 hours of riding time because we had all the stoppages in there.
So for me, it's 300 calories an hour.
Yeah.
So that's 3,000 calories that I have to find.
Yeah.
Either find, take, drink, eat, whatever.
Whatever it takes.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
And and I don't count what I eat right before.
Right.
I only count what's during.
Yeah.
So that's 3,000 calories for me. That's 300 calories an hour. And then for me to ride in the heat, if it's above 70 degrees, it's a liter an hour that I have to consume just of liquid.
Yeah.
Not calories.
It's purely the hydration side.
Just hydration.
Yeah.
The liquid I get from the calories is used to digest the calories, so I don't count that.
Right.
So if we're out on let's say an 80-degree day here, I'm bringing one bottle for nutrition, which is a liter, and another bottle which is for hydration.
Right.
And guess what? At the end of the hour, both of those are almost gone.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's for somebody like me who's a huge, big sweater, and I'm a big engine. I'm a big boy. Like there's a lot of energy going.
You do punch a pretty good hole in the air.
Yeah. So that stuff gets factored. But again, I didn't figure all that out for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
But yeah, the best thing I can say is, what really started to open my eyes to it is, at the end of the ride, it tells you how many calories you should have consumed.
Yeah.
If you're low, then you messed up. If you're over, then gold star. Good.
Yeah.
If you ate a little bit extra, good, because that means you don't have to eat so much. Afterwards.
And so, like you, I had my pockets full of gels and whatever else to fill the calories I had planned. And what was interesting was because I think early on, so a combination of things, I think the pre-race nutrition was not where it needed to be. And then early in the race wasn't where it needed to be either. Now, somehow I caught up, which, as we all know, you never catch up.
Yeah, you got better into a right headspace.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, as far as my calorie intake, like, I ended up consuming all of the calories, which is also why I probably felt nauseous for a good, hour and a half, because I had the way to try to get everything back was anytime I thought about a goo, I took a goo. Yep. All right. And
if you felt nauseous, you wait till the nausea goes away, and then you're like,
I was really just kind of hoping.
Oh, nauseous again.
Right. Yep. I was kind of hoping it would just like all come out, and then you could just start over again.
Yep.
Because you know what happens if you vomit on the bike is you just take a goo.
Yeah.
I remember you told a guy that at Bad Astra. I want to say a couple years ago.
What do you do if you throw up? And then he's like, what do you throw? What if it happens if you're taking a goo and you just throw it up? I'm like, and then you just
take another one.
Yeah.
I think he did. He threw up, and he's like,
that was a horrible one. I was like, I never said it was going to be great. I just said that's what you have to do.
Didn't say you'd like it.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Like, I've been there. I've thrown stuff up, and then you're like, I have to eat, even though I'm going to be throwing up. Yeah, Serena's done that before too. But
right?
It's the thing is like you have to put that mind space out and just be like, I'm fueling for the ride.
Yeah.
And if I can't consume fuel, then I won't be riding much longer.
That's right.
So.
Very good. Well, let's move into some rapid fire.
Yeah.
How does that sound? It feels like we haven't done rapid fire in forever. We've kind of missing it. So, all right. So good friend at ChatGPT is our AI friend is asking us some tough questions here about the Flint Hills Adventure ride. So let's see here. So the first one is why? Why does it do this? And this has to be directed at me. Did you have a point on the route where you thought about quitting? And if so, what kept you from pulling the plug?
Yes. He had many points. Basically I told him since we DNF'd Dirty Disco that we weren't allowed to have another DNF. And he was like, but that was a fun race.
That was an unplanned race.
Bargaining with me so much. I was like, no, I'm not quitting. I'm like, you can quit, but I'm not going to quit.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was, I had about 3 hours where I wanted to quit. So
yeah, we were telling Bobby on the race, the post race for the Gravel Cup series that Dock and Road, if it was half a mile longer, I would have been throwing my bike on the ground because that road is probably one of the worst roads I've ever been on. It was just chunky gravel into the headwind. It was.
I was going to say if it didn't.
It was like 300 watts to go 6 miles an hour just to hold the bike up. I was like, I was just thinking. I was like, I could probably walk faster than we're going.
I think it's one of those like if the headwind hadn't been there, that road would have still been a challenge, but it would have been like, all right, I can endure it. But when you throw all the factors in, and I think the other thing we talked about was. This is something I don't think we probably put enough consideration for. When you've got a strong wind the way we had all day Saturday, it was probably from the race started like a little bit before 8. I want to say, and I want to say it was about 11 or so was when the wind really picked up, and so we had a really strong crosswind for like a 15-mile stretch, I want to say, before we started working our way back south, and then it just turned into a massive headwind. That the physical toll that it takes to manage your bike in a crosswind even on a chunky gravel road or just a normal gravel road. I mean, how many times there were a couple of times we were talking about like I would see you riding, like this, right?
Yeah, I thought I've never been on a bike and thought I was gonna
go over,
get like basically blown off of it.
Right.
Like it never happens.
I weigh pushed out from under you.
I weigh enough that like it's got to be a strong wind, and I've ridden in some strong winds. And we were going down this hill, and the bike almost went sideways, and I was like, holy cow! I look back, and you see Danny's eyes just wide as saucers, just like he was like, oh my gosh! Like I almost ate it hard going like 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
But yeah, it was one of those sections that I'm not a big fan of that kind of chunky gravel anyways. Like I find it just very annoying. It's just
battering.
It's loose. It's jarring. But then you add to the fact that you've been, fighting a crosswind and then you're into a headwind.
Well, there's the amount of energy that your body consumes. Because like you think about cycling, it's all the core and the legs and all that, but it's also the upper body that took. I mean, I felt like I think I told you at one point, like I think it was before the total fatigue set in, but I was like, I just feel tired. Like my whole body just feels fatigued, like everything. So and that done enough gravel rides, like I recognize it's a physical toll, but the crosswind I think it made you pay a heavy price.
It was one of those where my hands felt like they've ridden the Unbound 200 easy.
Yeah.
Like they were just
120
miles. Yeah, it was only 100 miles. Yeah. 120 miles.
All right. So just in terms of some of the people we ran across, did you have any like meaningful like moments, or did you meet anybody cool out there or anything like that?
Just Danny. That's all I rode with.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
We
well, like I mean, we joke about that, but it's like once we lost contact with that front group we were talking about, like, and I kept saying it, I expected people to catch us because I was having such a miserable day, and I can only attribute it to the fact that everybody else was probably having a miserable day too, and so I think that's a big part of it. It's like there just wasn't anybody out there. Like once we kind of got separated from some of those folks. I will say there were a number of people that recognized the podcast, so that was kind of cool.
Oh, good, yeah. We did have one guy come up and talk to us. So that was good.
And then there was a guy from Springfield, Missouri that I rode with early, and I recognized him because I think he probably was the same kid or similar kid, and I remember seeing him before, and I'm like, didn't I ride with you at Big Sugar last year? He's like, I've never done Big Sugar. I'm like, oh crap. All right. Well, didn't I ride with you at this other event? He's like, I haven't done that one either. I'm like, okay, I know we've ridden together, but I'm sorry. Anyway. But no, it was pretty cool. I mean, I kept thinking he was going to catch us because he was hanging on pretty good there for a while. And then all of a sudden I looked back and he was gone. I don't know what happened. I mean, he was riding, but like he drifted way back, and probably a lot like how I looked in your rear view when you looked back at me. So. He ended up coming in. We saw him at the finish line. He finished like, I want to say maybe 30 minutes after us. So he wasn't too far back, but it was sad because I really would have liked to have stuck with some people like we were talking about, just to help give some relief. But all right. So maybe just another one here. Let's see. There was something else here. If the Flint Hills could talk back to you after your ride, what do you think they'd say?
Said, good job pulling Danny around. No, it's not like good. I pulled him around. I would ride and he would be behind me, and then I would look back and he would be gone, and I'd be like, oh crap. And I'd think like, I'd try to hold consistent power, so there was a good wheel for him to hold on to, and he could get whatever relief, but it was just there was no relief in sight for him. And
it was funny because even like when I was when things were kind of perking up a little bit, starting to feel better. So the odd part about this whole thing was like the power for a while early on, the power was still there. Just perceived effort was just out of control through the roof. But then eventually the power dropped, and just you could tell it was nutrition and maybe even a little hydration. But when things started kind of coming back around, like the power still wasn't coming back. It was just, I felt better. And so it was funny because there were a couple of sections into those south winds. I was like, I'm just going to go whatever I can to give Travis some relief. And I look back and you're probably like, just pedal harder, would you please? Like, get through the, I can't go any slower back here.
Well, he would go in front of me, and in the south section, I'd be like, oh, okay, thanks. Somebody's going to do something. And then I would look down and I was like, oh my gosh. All right. I'm like, he's trying as hard as he can.
I was, man.
And I was just like, all right. I'm like, okay, I'll drink from the bottle. I'll get myself situated, and then I would pull around and then go. But I
was the little engine that could there for a while. I was trying, man.
He was trying. I was like, oh, God bless him. He's trying.
Well, it happens, but it's, and even just these last couple of days, like since the ride, like, well, I'll tell you, Monday. So Sunday we went out and rode a recovery ride, and actually I felt okay. Like I was definitely hurting from Saturday. Like fatigue was there, but just to get out and spin the legs out, and we had a little fun in a couple of sections too with the winds and everything. But it was fine. Like I felt fine. And then man, Monday freaking hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I think just the whole thing from Saturday, like that second day was just miserable. And then Tuesday it was a little better, and then Wednesday we did a little ride out there and did some effort, and perceived effort is still much higher than it normally, but the power's there, so that's good. I don't know, we'll see how the rest of the week goes. So.
No, I'm my lessons, my stuff from this race is basically, just enjoy the good days when you have them.
You got it. And you had a good day.
And if you don't have a good day, just, hope somebody's there to be with you, because I've been out there just by myself having bad days.
Yeah, it's miserable. So, well, cool. Anything else you want to cover?
Nope. I think that's it. If you want to do, if you want to hear more about the Gravel Cup series, we released that video on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then we have the open range. We talked with Eric on that video.
Yeah.
And so next week we're going to have our little open range tips and tricks. So if you're going down to open range,
definitely want to tune in for that.
Want to tune in for that for our 3 years of riding the 200. We'll give you everything we know.
Well, almost everything.
Almost. Some of the sections to watch out for.
Yeah.
Some of the sections that you can get ahead or get behind or catch up or all that kind of stuff. So. Well,
I'm anxious to get the weather forecast for the area.
I've been watching.
Yeah, I haven't seen if there's going to be any rain or anything yet, because that's like we talked to Eric. It's like that's a big factor for how the course conditions set up.
Yep.
And then it's hard to get the wind forecast. Like even a week in advance, it's just too much. Like you got to get a couple of days before. But man, I don't know. What do you want? You want a south wind or a north wind?
I don't care.
No wind.
I just want a wind, because I need the wind to be there.
Yeah.
So I want it to be for what did Lance always say? Like, when it was raining, half of the field is already kind of resolved to not trying as hard. So I think with a strong headwind like that, you get the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it just plays in my favor.
I hope I have legs that day, and maybe I'll just attack you early and just wear you down.
That's fine. You can attack me wherever. Again, like to go on this Flint Hills ride, I thought Danny was going to be, he's put in a lot better training than I have. So my move to attack early was self-preservation, was to try to catch that group and hopefully make Danny have to
work really hard to get back
up. So that was my plan. And I didn't know he was having a bad day until,
I didn't either until
he caught me. Yeah. And then I was like, well, all right, no use, kicking him while he's down.
Well, just for clarity though, open range, since the first year we did it, after the first year, since then, so this is your number 3 or no, this is your number 4.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope Eric's keeping count.
No, this is always easy for me because I only have one more year to the buckle. So each of the last 3 years.
No, I thought we did it together. Like we've done
the first year we did it, you had to wait up for me.
Yeah.
But each of the last 2 years we've raced it.
Yeah.
And so now this is a race. Like there's no waiting up for each other.
Yeah, there's no.
Yeah.
It's known at the start.
Yeah. There's no waiting up.
If you pass me, you just keep going.
That's right. Yeah.
So
it's the same way with Unbound. Like these are the only 2 races. Like most of the rest of the races of the year, we'll still race, but just kind of depends on how we feel and if you really want to, wait up for the other one or whatever. But open range is fair game, and I'm just hoping everything comes back around. And I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
This course is still your course. Like it favors you so much more than it favors me. But if I figure if I can even be close, it'd be really cool to have another finish like last year. It was a little bit of a group bunch sprint, and I think I got a little better tactics this time. So, yeah.
Been working on your sprint.
On the sprint. Oh, sprint form's terrible, but that's okay. At least I'll time it better.
Yeah,
so
it's good.
Anyway, good stuff, man. Well, tips and tricks next week. That's gonna be a lot of fun and a great time.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.